Hey everybody, this video is going to be kind of for anarchists and about anarchy. Mainly the arguments against anarchy, because there's constantly arguments against anarchy. Anybody who's an anarchist has heard, well, what do you do about this? What do you do about that? If you have anarchy, what happens with this? What happens with that? How does normal life continue if you have an anarchy? It's chaos. No, it's not chaos. It just means that there's no rulers. You know, like presidents or kings or people who decide things when you tell them you don't want them to happen. Like, oh, I don't know, when I write my senator and say, I don't want more taxes, and he goes, well, I think this is for the best. So, yeah, I'm gonna vote for it. Oh, yeah, there's my freedom right there. My freedom of choice. Anyways, no, it's not freedom. You don't have freedom in this country. You have rulers. Plain and simple. Just like everywhere else, you have rulers. Anywhere there's a government, that is. So anarchy just means no rulers, meaning there's nobody dictating the way you live. And it seems scary because there's other things like economics that, most people think that government directly dictates, and they don't have to. It doesn't have to. Government doesn't have to dictate economics. Anybody who's an anarchist, whether you're an anarcho-capitalist, communist, socialist, whatever you are, already knows that you can have no rulers and still have an economy that functions, regardless of what you believe. Now, the scary part is, well, what do you do about people who violate this and that? You'll have murderers and rapists, and you have murderers and rapists now. You do. Well, government's there to punish them. Okay, well, so you're saying that if there's no government, you won't punish them? Or the people in the community won't punish them? You have to have elected officials, like mayors, even though when a rapist is charged with rape, the mayor isn't called. The mayor's not involved. Who's involved? Well, the police, for one. Are they the government? No, they're not the government. Much like the fire department's not the government, or the ambulances aren't the government. Police have only recently, really, honestly, been considered part of the government. They're not part of the government, but they're considered such nowadays. So anarchy is scary because if there's no rulers, who will decide how we move forward as a society? Well, the society will choose in their own way, depending on the anarchist society you live in. But probably the biggest arguments you get against anarchy is, how will blank happen? Things that the government takes care of. Nowadays, when I say takes care of, I mean, yeah, they get the stuff done, but in the most inefficient, sloppy, asinine way possible. Let's say you live in a big city, guess what? You know those orange road barrels that seem to pop up like they're the state flower? Yeah, they're everywhere and they never stop. I don't think that would be the issue if the state wasn't involved. The government, that is. They probably just fix the roads as the roads needed it. And anyways, roads seems to be the biggest issue for people. And it's funny because it's like the end-all be-all argument that government should exist. Think about that for a second. The biggest argument for government existing is roads. Okay, so we need a leader and a Congress and a Senate and blah, because we need something to drive on that's flat and smooth. Can't have that without a president. I mean, come on, right? What? No. Okay, roads will get built by anybody that needs a road. Aside from the fact that I don't even have to argue this, I'll get to that. I'm going to argue it anyways. All right, let's say you're a business nowadays that you need roads, otherwise your business will fail, right? And by the way, there's thousands of businesses, if not hundreds of thousands, that need roads or they will all fail. All of them. So you believe that if there's no government, the roads will just cease to exist. In fact, the businesses themselves that need the roads will not only, they won't collaborate and opt to help pay for the roads themselves because they need them for the businesses to continue or their businesses will fail. They will actually sit there and go, you know what? Now that there's no taxes, I'm going to keep this money until my business fails because there's no roads. Yep. It's a sound business plan to fail because I can keep my tax money that's now no longer being taken away from me by thieves called government. Instead of calling up other businesses that need roads and going, hey, you know, I'm thinking these roads, we don't have taxes anymore. You know, you want to pitch in and, you know, we'll take care of these roads so that our businesses will continue? Perhaps they won't, and perhaps they'll let their businesses fail if they're stupid. That's not an argument. I'm sorry, it's not an argument. Now, back to anarchy. Because the big deal, like they go, well, all right, I get you. That government's wrong because it's force. If you get someone to the point that they agree, hey, I tweeted this the other day and it got a good response, but it's a good question to ask anybody. If you walk up to anybody who, you know, is advocating for government and you say, hey, let me ask you, is it right for any human being to rule over, or whatever, you know, to have power over, that's the word, power. Is it right for any human being to have power over another human being? Guess what? They'll all say, well, no. No. Then you can say, congratulations, you're an anarchist. And they'll scratch their head or whatever. But the point is, it's obvious that it's immoral for anyone to rule or have power over any other people. It's wrong. It's wrong. Okay, well, you know what else was wrong? Slavery. You know what people were worried about with slavery? Who is gonna pick the cotton if there's no slaves? I don't know. I mean, if you're a person before slavery was abolished, you'd go, I don't know, it's scary. I'm scared. What do I do? How is the cotton? What? Doesn't matter. Slavery's immoral. Gotta stop it. Same thing with government. Same thing with anarchy. Anarchy doesn't have to explain how every little tiny problem is going to get fixed. No. And why would they need to? Why would somebody who's like, hey, look, it's immoral for people to rule over people. Why would you have to turn to them and go like, well, in that case, explain how everything's going to work afterwards because I'm with you, but not unless, you know, all of society makes sense afterwards and you can figure out how to make everything work. Really? So you're not with me about the immorality until I can figure out how to make everything work? So you're cool with, like, slavery until I can figure out how cotton's gonna get picked. Until then, slavery's alright with you. Even though you're like, yeah, slavery's bad, it's horrible, but it's cool until, like, you solve the problem. So you, the person who's against it, has to solve it? How the cotton's going to get picked? By abolish slavery, and you have to solve it. Otherwise, we aren't going to abolish the immorality. Nope. No, it makes no sense. The point is, government's immoral. It has to be stopped. No government. You cannot have a government. I know it sounds scary, but so did ending slavery to people who really were scared as to who's going to pick their crops. But guess what? Humans came together and said, no, it's immoral. You can't have a slave. So how is government any different? They're not. We shouldn't have a government. And yeah, it's scary at first to think, well, who's going to do all the stuff the government does? I know it sounds scary, but the truth of the matter is a lot of that stuff was done before government got involved with it. But when government got involved with it, you had generations and generations of people get used to that. And that's why it seems scary, because they're used to it. They didn't grow up in a time that didn't have it. So it's scary because it's like saying, like, I don't even know what to compare it to. Like grape juice is in a bottle and you're just used to grape juice being in a bottle. And if you were like, oh, if you end all grape juice companies, they're like, well, how are you going to get the grapes gathered together and then mashed and squeezed into a bottle? It's crazy. What are you going to do? Someone will figure it out. The wonderful thing about humanity is when you put us into adverse situations where we have to figure things out, we figure things out. That's what we do. Humans are amazing, and never have we not been able to figure out something. We just do. We figure everything out. Somebody in our species will figure things out, and it'll work. Somebody invented the cotton gin. Which that's not what abolishing slavery did not lead to the cotton gin. The cotton gin was before slavery was abolished, but the reaper, on the other hand, which is what actually reaped the cotton, was after slavery. Somebody invented that. So, the fact of the matter is, anarchy is the most moral way of life. No governing. Nobody has power over you. I don't. And you don't have power over me. Regardless of votes, if 51% voted to kill the 49%, does that make it moral? Because they voted it? Or does it make it moral that they choose the way they eat, or that they choose the way they dress themselves? No. No, it's not. Thus, no government. None. Whether you're an anarcho-capitalist, syndicalist, communist, socialist, whatever. I mean, even if you're none of those, if you're not an anarchist, it's pretty easy to see the problem in our society today, no matter what country you're in, is government. And we can't fix this until we stop our governments. I don't care what list I'm put on. I don't care how I'm viewed. Government needs to be stopped. We can do this.